but if somebody is not, they will be filled in. But hopefully that was enough time for you guys to have some constructive discussions. And so, can I have around 3 people to discuss anything that you could have talked about in the breakout rooms? Yeah, Dia, go for it.
We thought it was really interesting when we compared Cincy to Mesot because when looking at Cincy, we have like a bunch of great hospitals, but our main barrier is cost. And Kirtana brought this up as well. But Mesot, their like biggest barrier is just not having the hospitals in general and not even having that option. So it was just interesting to see what we were concerned to in comparison to them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point to bring up because fleeing from war is also one of those, factors that is completely different that you wouldn't see in Cincinnati. So there's definitely differences between the two. Yeah. Anybody else want to go? I think I saw Sam raise his hand. Maybe? No? That's okay. Adam, go for it.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the neighborhood environment and how specifically in regards to food, like malnutrition, what you saw over the pandemic, like on the news and in news articles, farmers were throwing out like millions of gallons of milk, like thousands of eggs every week, and you're wondering like if a lot of people are starving and paying a lot of money, and still living off of like food stamps, like why is there so much waste? How come there's not been an effort to kind of allocate this waste into people who are suffering? But we also talked about how, in regards to education, kind of how different it is, like being from Mason than going down to Cincinnati and seeing how different those environments are.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, that was a great point. I was actually just talking about this with Jonathan earlier today, but I'm from around Princeton, and so a lot of the funding for health and medicine goes to Princeton and isn't really funneled to nearby communities. So that negatively impacts us. So yeah. Anybody else want to share? All right, it's fine. Um, yeah. So the next point that we really want to focus on is community. A lot of the social determinants of health are directly impacted and kind of get bubbled into a box based on like the community you live in, right? So if you're born and raised and die in Clifton, your life expectancy is expected to be really high because the social determinants of health are strong over here, whereas in somewhere else it might not be. So just when talking about community, we just want you guys to just start thinking about what structures are there in a community that will allow us to have better health, if that makes sense. You go to the next slide. And so, all right, right back into discussion groups. But the question this time, you guys can get fancy with it, but what would an ideal community look like to you? So specifically, what structures would your community have? And why do you think they're necessary? And just for food for thought, why aren't all communities ideal?